I always set my hand on fire. People have sometimes asked me to do a little bit more cooking on the show, or any cooking on the show, and I thought now is a good time to do it. Bananas Foster is a famous dessert from New Orleans. People think it came from a place called Brennan's. Actually, it was invented earlier at Brennan's other restaurant by Chef Paul Boulanger called the Vieux Carré, which I am butchering the pronunciation of. It means the old square. We're actually going to make a Vieux Carré later on the show. So what is Bananas Foster? Well, Bananas Foster is essentially a topping for ice cream, or rather, it's a sauce that is topped with ice cream. It's butterscotch, it is cooked bananas, it's flambéed, which means we set it on fire. It's delicious. I love it. I don't know how much of it I can eat anymore. I think I'm going to feel like garbage if I eat all of this, but definitely going to have a taste. But I learned it like by word of mouth, and so any time I think I know a recipe, I just know that recipe. I'm gonna check my notes. And you know what? I'm pretty on the money with it, but I was a little bit off. I never bothered with either cinnamon or cardamom, and I find that the traditional recipe seems to call for that. So I'm gonna do it the more traditional way with a split banana here. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a butterscotch, we're gonna flambe it. This is a very exciting thing to serve. And it's very impressive looking. That was my favorite thing about it. This was one of my go-to moves. This was my, oh, let me cook you a nice dinner, and then finishing the meal with a little Bananas Foster. Whoosh, whoosh. My wife actually hates this dish, so happily some of my other charms worked on her. It wasn't this, it was not my Bananas Foster. All right, well the first thing we gotta do is throw some butter in our pan. 4 tablespoons of butter, and we're gonna melt that. And you wanna do this at a pretty high heat. That's really high. Whoa, that shit's melting quick. Maybe we wanna come down a little bit. Yeah, I don't know, this is gonna be weird, because I'm used to working on gas where I can see the flame. I've never done this, or anything even like this, on induction. But, you know, I'm gonna add a 1/4 cup of hard-packed dark brown sugar. So what we're making here is butterscotch. And then we're gonna whisk. So right now, of course, there's not much going on, but as the heat works up and we get more of this melt on the butter, we're gonna get quite a bit of action here. I wanna see this get a little hotter. We almost want this to be like angry, simmering, rolling boil. Okay, we're gonna add our bananas now. This is a banana I've cut twice, once along its middle and then split down lengthwise. Add them cut side down, and you can see that they're already starting to smoke and caramelize. About a minute of that, maybe less. We're gonna flip our bananas back over, get the other side. Smells actually really good. We're gonna kill the heat. We're gonna add ground cardamom, like a 1/4 teaspoon. 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon. Okay, get that all mixed in there. We're gonna throw a little bit of salt on it. This is just some kosher salt. Of course, heat is off. Now we add our fun. I'm gonna throw some dark rum in there, usually about a 1/4 cup. And listen, don't overthink it. It doesn't need to be fancy rum. You just want dark, cheap rum. Don't be using your expensive stuff. Also, this is dangerous. Woo! I always set my hand on fire. Extra that cinnamon. Yay. And we're just gonna let that go out on its own. You know, we want to burn the rum off, basically. We got almost perfect here. I'm going to move that whole thing aside. I'm going to take, you know, a portion of this and throw it into my pan here. My bowl. I'm going to put it in my bowl. Okay. Scoop some vanilla ice cream on top of that. This ice cream is hard. Got a little more in the pan here. What the heck? One more banana on it and drizzle a little. And there you have it, Bananas Foster. I figured I could do this on the show because there's alcohol in it. So let's see how Bananas Foster worked out for me today. I've made it a bunch of times. Some days it comes out better than others. This is one of the good ones. Shit. I'm not really used to using a induction burner, and I did burn the sugar a little bit. A little bit. If you had gone much further, this would have been garbage, but that little bit is actually really nice. That's a happy accident. I was worried about that. It's got such a dark flavor. Very, very sweet. I actually don't know how you make caramel, but this is not, butterscotch is not unlike caramel in flavor terms. It's obviously it's a different thing, otherwise they would just call it caramel. I think butterscotch is a step along the process to making caramel, I think. Or maybe the same thing. I don't know. Which is interesting to me because I've seen recipes for this that call for banana liqueur, and I've made it both ways. I never think that the banana liqueur is necessary. I really think it's just a waste of time. The rum and the bananas and the butterscotch get you there. You get Even where there's not a bite of banana, you're getting plenty of banana flavor, and it's nice. I'm not always a big fan of banana, but here, it's good. And there's a lot of rum flavor. I mean, even though you've burned the rum, you're getting a lot of that rum. Now, of course, you took ice cream and you covered it in butter, which is not very different than apple pie with ice cream on it, now that I think about it. Now, the cinnamon and the cardamom, I've never added that before to it. I just never came across that in a recipe, but I think that is the traditional way to do it. It's a brilliant addition. It's really good. I love cardamom, and that adds such a complexity to the flavor profile of that. I'm not gonna be able to put it into words that aren't cardamominess, but it's very good. And cinnamon, I mean, we know what cinnamon tastes like, I hope. One other thing to note is that, some of you are probably complaining about this already, I've seen this served with both toasted almonds or toasted pecans. Yep, that's a good idea. I was gonna do it. I forgot. Toast your nuts, put them in there. It'll be great. So I've got a couple of drinks in mind, the first of which is a New Orleans classic. It's a staple. It's the Vieux Carré, which I felt like would be a great complement to this drink. It carries the name of the restaurant that this was introduced to the world at. The Vieux Carré was invented in the 30s by Walter Bergeron, who was the bartender at the Carousel Bar, which actually back then was known as the Swan Room, which is legendary. Vieux Carré, I am butchering that pronunciation. Actually, I was speaking to a friend from France earlier today. I asked her how to pronounce it, and she told me, and she said, but also I think it would be very pretentious if you jumped into that pronunciation. So it means the French Quarter. That's what it is, the French Quarter. I guess if you're French, it's the Old Square. If you're not French, it's the French Quarter. So I came across two recipes for this. And first off, I've done this drink on the show before. Traditionally, this drink is made with a combination of Peychaud's and Angostura. I'm gonna throw a link up there in the corner in the pinned comment and stuff like that to it for you. But Dale DeGroff did a version of it that I'm really interested in. His uses his own pimento aromatic bitters. I've never tried his version of it, so let's give that a try. This recipe is primarily equal parts. Dale's got his written up as 3/4 of an ounce basis. I'm using 1 ounce because it's easier for me to pour. 1 ounce of rye, I'm using Whistle Pig 10 Year. 1 ounce of cognac, and I find that the mixing cognac to use is Pierre Ferrand's. This was made in collaboration with Dave Wondrich to be the 1840s style of cognac that would have been served in cocktails of the time frame. And now 1 ounce of our sweet vermouth. The recipe now calls for 2 teaspoons of Benedictine. Benedictine is an herbal liqueur. I personally believe that a teaspoon is an overflowing bar spoon. I also think that, like, if you're mixing drinks and the recipe calls for something that's like not a barroom measurement, not a dash, not a jigger, you know, not an ounce, like a teaspoon, like that belongs in my kitchen, that what it really means is to taste. You know, you add what you like, but like, about that much. You know what that looks like, right? So we're gonna add 4 dashes of Dale's pimento aromatic bitters. Those were big dashes out of this, but we're gonna call them dashes. He built it, I'm assuming that was designed that way for a reason. We're gonna throw some ice in there and stir. Whoa, that was exciting on close-up, huh? Jeez. I always like to stir till the glass is cold and sweaty. That's kind of my measure. Or if the ice starts to get loose, okay? Give it a pour. Now that looks delicious. You can garnish this with a cherry or a twist of orange or both. My cherries are in, well, I don't know where they are. We just built this whole new studio. So we're gonna use a twist of orange. I don't know if I can manage this one. What is it, roulez-vous bon temps? Or let the good times roll. Roulez-vous, roulez bon temps? Bon temps, good times. Ooh, bracing, dry. Balance, oh wow. Shit, man. That's a good drink. It's got some really cool evolution in there. There's a lot of cherry notes in there. I don't know if that's coming from the rye. Sometimes that expresses that way. It could be Dale's bitters combined with the rye or the Benedictine. You know, there's a lot of parts in there. I could actually see it coming from interplay with the vermouth. I don't think I can pull the flavors apart here. What I will say is there is an herbal, lingering cherryness to this drink that is really nice. And of course, with our orange twist, we get a lot of orange, specifically orange notes. But overall, it's really the sum of its parts. It does not come apart. There's not like separate flavors so much in this. It's like a weird tanginess there that I really like, which is, I think, the vermouth. It kind of dances on the sides of your tongue, it's like almost sour. A little tanginess there, which settles into a kind of a cherry thing. And then some woodsy, yeah, kind of woody kind of vibes. I like this. This is probably the Benedictine doing that to me, that herbal, like a mossy fen deep in a forest. The flavor to me feels like a spruce forest as opposed to like, you know, a bayou that you want it to be. But it's a genteel cocktail for sure. But the question of the hour is, how does it go with ice cream and butterscotch? Because any excuse to go back to the ice cream and the butterscotch, right? As you would expect, it goes divinely with ice cream and butterscotch, as most things will. My first thought when I said I'm going to make Bananas Foster and pair it with a drink was, some New Orleans version of an Irish coffee. And then I was like, you know, looking up the thing, it comes from the Vieux Carré. Let's make a Vieux Carré. That makes a lot of sense. That's a New Orleans drink. It's not a Sazerac, which has been done to death, and I've done it. I did a whole episode about it, debunking its mythology. We can link back to that one too. I still had this idea though of like New Orleans Irish coffee. And while I was pulling my ingredients, I stumbled across a bottle I haven't thought much about in a long time that I picked up many years ago. This is St. George Nola coffee liqueur. St. George made a coffee liqueur that's got chicory in it, and you can tell I haven't touched this bottle in a long time because it's covered in dust. I think this has been through 3 moves. I think this is the 3rd home that this bottle has seen. And, laissez-les bon temps rouler. It's right on there. That's why I said roulez-roux. What does that mean? Laissez-les bon temps rouler. Let the good times roll. So I thought, let's try it. I don't know. I don't really have a recipe specifically in mind, but I think we can wing it. Some kind of a coffee New Orleans cocktail. So in New Orleans, they have a tradition of using chicory root in coffee. It's a bitter root. It's not coffee. It's a root, like a root beer root. Well, let's tell you what it tastes like right now. Woo! That tastes like dark, cold brew, but it's got some sweetness to it. So that's good to know. We got something sweet there. It's a coffee liqueur in the New Orleans style. I like it a lot. I thought bourbon, because we've already done rye and cognac, so let's do bourbon. We gotta have Peychaud's bitters. That's like mandatory. We got coffee liqueur, Peychaud's, and bourbon. Thinking equal parts on these. Peychaud's. Definitely get some absinthe in there with a rinse. Do we need some sweetness? We might, and if we do, I got some extra brown sugar. I think this is good. I think we can start here. So let's go equal parts, 1 ounce of our coffee liqueur. Why would I think that Peychaud's is gonna go good in coffee? Kind of from experience. I find that absinthe, herbal spirits, chartreuse, they all go really well in coffee. 1 ounce of bourbon. I happen to be using a Baker's 7-year 107 proof, the Baker 7. We gotta have our 2 dashes of Peychaud bitters. There we go, like 2.5 actually. And let's taste where we're at. Let's just see what I got going on here. I like where we're going here. I mean, I might add a dash of Angostura to it, but I don't think it needs it. I can live with this. The only thing is I think I want to add a 1/2 ounce more of the Baker's and the Nola. So I'm just going to add a 1/2 ounce more just to increase our volume. And actually, you know what? I might add 1 more dash of Peychaud's just to compensate for the increased volume. So 1.5 ounces of each and then 3 dashes of Peychaud's. Get some cracked ice into here. We'll do this one in the stem. Yeah, we'll serve this one up. Let's do that. That'll be fun. That'll be fun. Just change it up a little bit. It's a pretty simple drink. There's not a lot going on here. I was gonna do the rinse with the absinthe, but instead we'll do a little absinthe spray over the top. Now I'm gonna float some heavy cream on it. Make it a real coffee dessert. I guess it's sort of the New Orleans version of a White Russian. Maybe? Maybe. Let's find out. Very interesting. I like it a lot. I bet it could be sweeter. I think a lot of people are gonna want this sweeter. It's dry. It's got the absinthe Peychaud's coffee interplay is super cool. The bourbon's a little bit lost. It's not lost, it's just not the loudest note in there. Just out of curiosity, I'm gonna add this much brown sugar. And I'm using brown sugar because I just don't have any simple syrup today, and that's what we had for the thing. And probably this won't really mix in very well. And also it's going to destroy our cloudy looking thing. It's just gonna look like a latte now. I just think that this drink, for the way it's being served as like a dessert drink, you want it sweeter than it is. It was great. It was really good. It wasn't scrumptious-escent. It was a first go to drink. It was fine. Here we go. This is sweetened up. Let's see how it is. Now you're talking. That's where you want it. Okay, now you're getting these like dark. See, that actually brings the chicory out. Sweetness is so important to making something taste like itself. When the sweetness is in there, now it pulls apart the coffee and you get a strong coffee note, okay? Like, oh, hello, coffee, like a latte, sweetened coffee, delicious, right? And you get this separate, it evolves into this separate bitter note that is the chicory. Before, they were so smashed together that you couldn't pull them apart from each other. Now, because of the sweetness, you get this, they express themselves. They get different, is it anise or anise? It's an anisette, but it's anise. You get this nice anise fennel thing happening from those two guys, plus there's other spices and herbs in there, but they're less loud. And the bourbon is there. I mean, bourbon and brown sugar are a match made in heaven. The brown sugar itself brings another depth to this, a depth of flavor, a molasses char kind of, a deep dark flavor. And it's very, very nice. It would be better if it was presented correctly, if I'd put the brown sugar in before I added the heavy cream and then stirred it all up, but all the same, the flavor's there. Yeah, I'll take it. Tried something new today on How to Drink. We cooked. I made a dessert. You like that? You want more? Let me know. I can do more. I can cook. I can do all kinds of things. I can tap dance. Not really. I can't tap dance at all. If you want to see more cooking, please let me know. This has been How to Drink, the show about drinking and how to make them. Guys, I'm Greg. You can find me on the social media places appearing before your very eyes. Did I mention that we have a podcast? I should have mentioned that earlier. I've got a podcast called Midnight Local where I talk about movies. Maybe I'll watch Cat on a Hot Tin Roof over there because I haven't seen it yet. Meredith and I hang out. We talk movies. It's great. Check out the link in the pinned comment. Check out the thing up here in the corner. The newest episode is out every single week. You can get it wherever you get your podcasts. Come on. You know you want to hear me talk movies. You know you do. You want to hang out. You want to be friends. You want to just chill with me and Meredith on the couch, listening, talking movies, shooting the shit. We go way off topic. That's like the whole deal. This was great. This was a lot of fun for me because I get to walk away with some delicious dessert to eat that I really need to stop eating because I'm going to step on the scale tomorrow and I'm going to regret it.